might use some of this for later. So, all right. So thanks for joining. I know you guys are busy. I wanted to share a strategy that I've used over the past 7 years that have really helped grow my commercial book. Okay. It's not going to be for everybody, but it has been probably the best thing I've done to write commercial in my agency. And I think you're going to learn why after I kind of walk you through it. My whole strategy for writing business on the ground here is to meet people face to face. I'm pretty old school. I've been an agency owner now for 18 years, and I cut my teeth drinking coffee and having lunches and going to networking meetings. And I've been in B&I and all this kind of stuff. And all of us are taught, well, you have to give value. You have to give value. We hear that all the time. Like, you're supposed to give value when you sell insurance, right? So like, I'm going to give you a way that I know gives value. Okay. That can be a very broad statement. We're told that when we're trying to meet with mortgage brokers, well, we have to provide value. We're told that to sell a product that's more expensive, we have to provide value. Okay. So the way I learned to provide value was I learned it through B&I many, many years ago by give to gain, right? Give the whole giver's gain philosophy. It's been a huge cornerstone of how I've built my entire book of business. So, but I had to learn what kind of stuff should I be giving? Like, what do people appreciate? And so many years ago, I was listening to podcasts and I came across, one of the hosts was like, anybody can do a podcast. And I kind of had a creative itch that I needed to scratch. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts. It was a medium that a lot of people, it was starting to gain some traction. And I was like, I was wondering if I could do a podcast. And then I was wondering if anybody would listen to my podcast. And so what I started by doing 2 different podcasts when I first started. I do 3 now because I kind of have a problem, but, I did one on insurance. I still do it. It's called Simply Explaining Insurance. And I did that because I was tired of getting asked the same questions by all my clients. Do I need insurance? Do I need to buy the insurance when I rent a car? Is this covered? Yada, yada, yada. I realized that there were so many people that didn't quite know how insurance worked. And I really wanted to educate the masses. And so that's how I started doing that podcast. So every time I get a question that's thrown at me from a client, or a question I've never heard before, I'll come in and I record it. And I just put out my 237th episode last week. So, I thought I had 20 episodes in me. Like, how much is there to know about insurance? It turns out there's a lot. Okay. The other thing that I did was I wanted to grow my commercial book of business. And what I realized was when I was out marketing with commercial or business owners, I realized that the conversations I was having with them on the ground were very comfortable. Like, we had something in common. I'm a business owner, right? We both have some of the same struggles. We both have some of the same challenges. And so what I found myself having like hour-long conversations with people that weren't even clients, trying to learn from them. How did you do that? And how do you staff there? Who do you use for taxes and this and that? And so I was kind of just having very nice organic conversations with people without really knowing what I was working towards. Then when I joined B&I realized how powerful giving somebody something of value was, because it started to bear fruit and people started referring to me. And the story that I tell is that I was having a one-on-one with a new business owner who wasn't even in my group. She was visiting, and we went out and had coffee. And I threw out my line of questioning. I made it all about her. I was like, what do you do? And how did you get into that? And and at the end, the question that I really like to ask, that I think you all should put in your back pockets when you're in situations like this, is, who do you need to meet? And once you're embedded in the local business community, you build this kind of mental Rolodex of all these professionals that you've gotten to know, and you can refer back and forth. I became a connector. Okay. And she said, well, my population is these type of people. These are the kind of people that become my clients. And these are the type of people that I'd like to meet. And I said, Great. I actually know somebody who works very closely with a population just like that. I'm going to connect you with them. I'm going to send you a text and I'm going to connect you and I'm going to introduce you and hopefully something will happen there. And before the meeting was over, she said, you know what, Matt? She said, I'd really like you to be my insurance agent. And I felt like the smartest person in the room. I was like, oh my God, it really works. I felt like I did a Jedi mind trick or something. I mean, at the end of the day, we do want to earn business from people, but the way that I've chosen to do this is to try and give value by helping them with their business some way. Okay. So what I started to do when I started to come up on podcasting, I wanted to do an interview show. And this is what I'm going to try and teach you guys today. Okay. So what I do is I interview local business owners and I have them tell their story. Okay. I actually just had a pre-interview with a couple an hour ago with someone that I got connected with here in town. And I'll walk you through my process. But my mentality essentially is to give them something that they've never been given before. Like how many people do you know that have been interviewed on a podcast? It's more and more now, but it was very, very few 6-7 years ago when I started it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is create a really, really nice piece of content for them that they can use any way they want to, because when a podcast is done, it lives out on the internet, right? And so it's a permanent piece of content that they can use, they can share, they can do anything that they want with it. Okay. So what I decided to do was I started interviewing people that I already insured. Okay. As a thank you. I said, look, thank you so much for allowing me to protect your business. I really appreciate it. I'm starting a new project. Would you be open to me interviewing you and telling me your story? Because what I wanted to do was build a library of stories of successful business owners, so that other business owners or aspiring business owners or struggling business owners could go and listen and learn from people who are already doing it. And so that was kind of what I wanted to build. And so I started interviewing the clients that I already had as a thank you. And so I wound up interviewing, I don't know, I'll bet 10 or 12 people that were in my book of business, and they came in and I interviewed them. And I'm going to tell you guys how all this works and how this all connects and how to get it online. And you guys can get a podcast online in like 48 hours. Like it's so much easier right now. When I had to do my first 2 podcasts, I use a very different method because there are new things out there that make it very easy. And so I had to learn. I started with a WordPress blog. I had to find the right plugin. I had to find a place to host my audio. I had to connect it into iTunes. It took me a month to figure it out, but I did. And part of me was just like, I wonder if I can, part of it was like, I wonder if I can just do it. I just want to know if I can do it. And then it just became kind of a thing that I really enjoyed doing. And it's become so good that it would be dumb for me to stop because it's so good for business. Because what ends up happening is you are making connections with people that you probably wouldn't get to. And the connections that you're making with these people are real. All right. You're not talking to them over the phone. I've done all my interviews face to face. Okay. In my office or in their office. Okay. So it's a very different connection that you're making with people when you're doing this. And I do some prep. I do a pre-interview. I will go to their location. And I'll be like, hey, tell me about your story. And I'll just ask them questions. When did you start? And I have a list of questions too, I'm going to give to you guys on how I kind of format an interview. Because I think I've interviewed over 100 people in my town and I've kind of got a system down that makes the conversation flow. Okay. So my method is to learn a little bit more about them, come back to my office, take a few notes, put together a line of maybe 8 to 10 questions that I think would lead a good conversation, email it to them before they come into my office, and then do the interview. The experience that they have doing the interview has always been good. They love it. They love it. People talk about their businesses like they're talking about their kids. Okay. There's so much pride there. They're very proud of what they've done. Okay. And so sharing the story. Oh, can you guys mute? Just thanks. So it's really easy to get them talking. Okay. And if you are curious by nature, it's just going to help the process. Okay. I've also used these interviews in a way for me to learn how to be a better business owner. I've talked to over 100 successful business owners. And so if you want to go to school and learn how to do things better, like I've talked to them about, hey, what did you do for marketing? How did you grow your business? We talk about staffing. How do you find good people? You know, we talk about social media. I had a social media expert on who lives in my town. I had her on every year for a while because I wanted to get better at social media. So I was just asking her questions on like, what do I need to do, you know, to be better at social media? And she's just giving me tons of information. I had marketing experts on, and I will ask them questions like, what would you do if you were me? And they're just feeding you this information that you would normally probably have to pay somebody for. Okay. At the end of the day, you have this great piece of content that you give to them. After it's done, I give them the links. The other thing that's really cool is that I always make sure I connect with them in whatever social channel they have. Okay. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever they are, you now can connect with them. Okay. And then when you post these episodes, you're tagging them and you're getting in front of their people. So the exposure that you get from your content that you're putting out and creating with these people is now you're getting in front of all of their people too. And once you do this long enough, you all of a sudden are like, oh, there's that podcast guy again. There's another podcast. There's another podcast. So I push it out on my channels. I give it to them to push out on their channels. And it's really been fruitful. So some of the stories the ways I've gotten business from this, because I've been doing this for 7 years now. Okay. And I usually do it where I will interview maybe 12 to 15 people and I will put them out weekly until I kind of run out of gas. Okay. I'm like, all right, because it doesn't take a lot of time, but it's a formal part. If you want to do this right, doing it for a certain period of time regularly will only help you. So, that's how I've kind of built this following, and I've met so many cool people. So I've had business come to me in a number of different ways by doing this. I've written a lot of business. One time I interviewed a guy and he was like, he owned a small athletic shoe apparel company. And I met with him because he talked at my kid's school at the end of the year. He gave away a free pair of shoes to the kid that ran the most that year or something like that. And he was in front of like 100 people. He was very energetic. I could tell he was well-spoken. I knew he was a local business owner. And I actually talked to him after the event. I was like, man, that's awesome. Good job. Thank you for doing that. That was really cool. And I was like, my name's Matt. I'm a local business owner. I don't even come to some people and tell them exactly like I'm a farmer's agent or I'm an insurance agent. I'm like, I run a local podcast where I interview local business owners. You seem to have a great story. Would you be willing to be interviewed and be on my show? I don't think I've ever had anybody tell me no. Okay. And he was like, yeah, I did have to chase him a little bit. It took me a few months to get in front of him, but I was persistent because I could tell I liked this guy and I could tell that like he would be a good guest. And so I chased him a little bit. I wound up getting in front of him. I went to his shop. I spent an hour with him there. Okay. Tell me about your story. And they will tell you all about the story. We became like really good friends. Then he came back and we recorded. And I was done recording and I was like, hey man, thank you so much. I'm going to get this out in the next week or so or whatever. And he looked at me and he was shocked. He's like, are you really not going to ask me about my insurance? I said, no, that's not why I do this. But you know, we kind of are at the end of the day, we are trying to build relationships and earn business. This was my way of earning. I said, no, man, I just want to tell your story. I enjoy doing this. He says, you know what? You can have all of my business. That was incredible. Thank you so much. I wrote his work comp, his GL. I got all his personal lines and stuff like that. It just landed in my lap. Okay. I've had other people say, you know what, Matt, I've interviewed them, and after the interview's done, they're like, you know what? I have an agent in town that I haven't spoken to in 4 years. He was given to me because the other agent before him failed. I've never talked to him. Will you take my policies over? And I generally don't like to do business that way, but I'm not going to say no to that. I said, yeah. So I took his policies, and that guy has grown his business. He's one of the biggest real estate brokerages in town, and he's become a really big asset, a great referral source. And he just built a $4 million building in town. We did that. He opened 3 more locations. So like, these accounts will continue to grow if you foster them. I've written tons of restaurants this way. The other thing that's important too is like, this is a system. This is a long play. Okay. You're not going to do this and just start pouring in commercial business. Okay. I have an account that I wrote like 2 apartment complexes and another commercial building from one guy that I interviewed 3 years ago. Like, he resurfaced after 3 years, and he was like, Matt, I need a quote on this. I want you to be my agent. And that's the power of connecting with these people this way and staying connected with them in social, because you are staying connected. If you're active on social and you're doing your insurance thing and you're getting people to know who you are, like, that's how you make these connections with people. Okay. So does anyone have any questions right now? I'm going to kind of go through my process next, because I want you to understand what these steps look like. I'm just curious on if you guys have anything that I can offer right now. If not, no worries. Cool. All right. So let me see if I missed anything else that I want to get in front of you. You know, the other thing I will tell you is, if you do this and you do launch a show, I don't want you to care at all about your metrics. Like, the system that I'm going to teach you to use will show you like how many downloads you have and how many listeners you have, like that. Those are vanity metrics. Like, you shouldn't care about that. My show is hyper local. Like, I don't care if someone from, New Jersey listens to this, because I can't write their insurance, but I want to be known. I don't necessarily just want to be known as a guy that knows a lot about insurance. Like, I want to be a good businessman. I want to be embedded in my business community here in town. I want to be seen supporting small local businesses. And I want people, when they see me, to know, yes, of course, that I do insurance, but that I am a part of this business community and trying to help support them. That's what I want. And that's what all of this will do for you. Okay. So, but you're not going to get a lot of listens on these, and that's fine. What you're doing is you're giving so much what we would call perceived value to the person that you're interviewing. You're making them feel really special. You're making them feel very important. You're making them feel proud, and you're giving them something that wasn't there before, that nobody has ever given them before. You're not giving a freaking gift card, right? You're not giving a $20 spiff for a referral. Like, you're giving them something very real that they can be proud of. And that is very unique. Okay. And that's why I think this works so well. And I've got just stories on top of stories where people have end up buying insurance from me because of this specific process. Okay. So like I said, what I did was, when I started, I worked with my current book of business. If you have a small book of business, just find some local business owners that I know local business owners. Okay. So just say, hey, I'm working on a project. Would you let me interview? And you can tell your story. You will definitely find people to do it. Okay. You're going to pre-interview them. I go and I spend time with them, and I learn about their business. I learn about their history. I ask them questions. Like I said, I come back, I email them the questions, and then they come in and record. All right. So how do I do this? I would point you guys towards an app. It's called Anchor. Okay. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can drop it in the, I know I can find it because I use it almost every day. So I'm going to drop it in here. There's an app called Anchor, and I'm going to have to log out real quick. I'll just drop it in here. And it's super rich. And you guys, the best thing about this is it's free. It's free. Okay. Oh, look at Claudia. She beat me to it. She dropped in there. So Billy, So yeah, it's pretty easy. I'll tell you how I do it. There are a number of ways to get the audio into Anchor. So what Anchor will do is all you need is you need a name for your show. You need a picture. And I use Fiverr. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Fiverr, but I think it's Fiverr is a website where you can go and you can search like podcast art, and you could have someone do a podcast JPEG for you for like $10. Okay. And then you'll get it, and you have to upload that into Fiverr or into Anchor. And then you have to pick whatever categories you want to be in. I think I chose like investing in business, and I think entrepreneurship is the other one. You can choose 2 categories, and you put your name in there, your email and stuff like that. And then like you're good to go. Like as far as audio recording goes, done it a number of different ways. Okay. When I started, I bought an app, or I bought a microphone, a Blue Yeti. Blue is the company, Yeti's the name of the microphone. It's like this big, I don't have it with me. It's like this big kind of old school looking microphone, and it was fine for interviewing. And you can just put the microphone between the 2 of you and it will record. I use a recording program on my Mac. I use GarageBand. Okay. The other one that you can use if you are not a Mac person or on PC is, I believe it's called Audacity. And Audacity is a free recording app. Okay. Where you can record, you can do your, you can do your editing in there. If you want to. I do an intro and an outro, and they're super easy to use. The other thing, you guys, is I don't edit. Okay. It's a real live organic conversation. You could lose hours of time if you're going to take out all of your stutters. I say, all the time. I probably said it 30 times already during this. Okay. I'm big on and and I don't edit any of that stuff out. I think I've edited a sneeze out one time in a interview, and I one time had a woman who kind of lost her train of thought and she needed to stop. But if you're using GarageBand or Audacity, you can just trim that out. It's really easy to use. Okay. Once you're done with recording in either of those, you can take it and turn it into an MP3 file. And honestly, you guys, I just throw it on my desktop. And then when I go to Anchor on the web app, I upload the audio. There's an option, new episode, upload MP3, and then you put it up there. It uploads it. You name the episode, and like you hit publish, and there it is. Okay. It's so easy, and it's free. It's incredible how everything's in. And for them to connect you to all these platforms is a gift. Like I said, it took me a month to figure all this stuff out before Anchor. I believe Anchor is actually owned by Spotify now, which is great. So they've got some big business behind them, and that thing isn't going anywhere. Okay. Yes, that is mine, Claudia. That's one of mine. Okay. Yeah. And you can do this. The other thing too, is you can absolutely record directly to Anchor from your phone or from an iPad. Okay. The Blue Yeti microphone that I had, I bought an adapter, a USB to Lightning adapter, and it plugs right into the phone, and your quality will be fine. I've upgraded my equipment this year where I've gone to these different kinds of mics. They do sound a little bit better. And I use what do I use? Hang on. I use a recorder called a PodTrack P4, and you just get a better, you get better audio quality. Okay. That's all. It doesn't have to be. I went 6 years before upgrading. The quality is good enough. I was looking for good enough. I just didn't want to record from my phone. I didn't want it to be like a tin can. Okay. So once you do that, that's all you really need to do to get it up and running. Okay. The catch was, the way I started getting in front of more people is once I ran through my list and I interviewed my 12 people, and I put out like a whole season or whatever, and I put out 10 of them. I went back to the people that I interviewed and I said, hey, thank you so much for coming on. Do you know anyone else that has a good story that would be willing to be shared? And that's where it all started happening for me. Okay. I started getting referrals from those people. And they were saying, yes, this person's got a good story. Yes, this person's got a good story. Yes, this person's got a good story. And then the chase begins. Okay. You're not going to necessarily land all of these because these are business owners. They're busy. This is why commercial is so tough to write, because business owners are so damn busy. And it's so hard for you to get in front of someone and be like, hey, would you want to buy insurance for me? Right now, if you're doing something like this, you will blow by all of that crap and you'll get in front of them and have the opportunity to spend 2 hours with people that you normally would never meet. Okay. So I got pretty deeply embedded in a group called EO. Has anyone heard of EO? Called Entrepreneurs Organization. Okay. Entrepreneurs Organization. And you have to do $1 million of gross sales just to be in this group of people. And so it's like a real high level. It's not even a marketing group. It's more like a support group for really successful entrepreneurs. And so they get together, a number of times a week, and they help each other learn how to do high level stuff. And so I got in a group with that, and I interviewed, there were 50 people, I think, in my chapter here in town in Boise, and I have interviewed half of them. And these are people I would have never, ever been able to meet. Okay. Once you do one round of successful interviews and you go back to people and ask for referrals, they will just send them to you. Okay. There are people that will send me people to interview without me even asking. They're like, Matt, I just met someone new. They need to be on your show. They need to be on your show. And so now they're just showing up. Okay. But make no bones about it. You guys, you have to chase these people sometimes. If you really want to do the interview, I'm not just going to ask somebody once. I'll ask them 3 or 4 times, just like I'm trying to sell a policy. But if you really want to get in front of these people, you have to keep asking, get on their calendar. If you have to reschedule, that's fine, but just stay with it. This type of work for me is very fulfilling. It's fun. I think it's easy. And I think if you can find the type of marketing that gets business in your door and you enjoy doing it and it's fun, like, just do it all the time. Like, that's really, I think, what we're trying to aim for. You know what I mean? So, so getting in front of these people has become really easy for me. It's silly. Like, there was a point in time I shut it down during the pandemic because I only do my stuff face to face. And as the pandemic lifted, I was like, I can't stop. This is too good for me to stop. Like, I can't stop. It would be stupid for me to stop doing this because I'm meeting so many good people. And so I'm doing another round. I just I did a post, whatever, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And I was like, hey, who's got a good story to tell? And I tag all the people that I've interviewed before. I was like, I'm doing another round of interviews. I tag all of them. And then they just start feeding you people. I'm going to connect you with so-and-so, and I'm going to connect you with so-and-so. And then you connect with them on your own, you chase them down, you interview them, and you start building the relationship that way. So, as far as the line of questioning goes, I think this is important. This was never very hard for me. I'm like I said, I'm naturally curious, like many of you are. I'm sure that I don't think any of these questions are going to be, none of them are really groundbreaking, but if you want to have a good interview with people, you got to get them to tell stories, right? And so I think storytelling is where it's at. So the line of questioning that I generally have, and I'm trying to think of the best way to get this to you. I'm going to cut and paste just this text into the chat. All right, you guys, I'm sorry. This is going to be a little, see if I can plop it all in there. See if that comes through. Bang. All right. Here's my line of questioning. Okay. Maybe not all of them, some of them. a mixture of these questions will get you a good interview. Okay. You'll get good stuff out of these people. So I always like to know where they're from. I'm in Boise. It's a kind of transient town. There aren't a lot of local people here. I'm from Chicago. I've been here 21 years. I always think it's interesting. How did you get here? How did you get to this town? And that kind of greases the wheels. It's a nice, easy conversation. It's easy for them to start talking, like, well, I went here and here, and this is how I landed here. So it's a nice, easy way to start the conversation. Okay. What did you do before you did this? I like to ask that because I kind of want to know what kind of skills they had before that they brought to their new business. So I think it's interesting just to kind of build the story that way. I always like to know, like, how did you decide to get into this business where you're, canning beverages? Or I just met with a new beverage canning company here in town, and they're incredible. So I was like, how did you start this? But where did this idea come from? What was that like? What was it like when you decided to go all in, with something like that? You really want to try and pull and tug on emotions. What did that feel like? Were you scared? What were your reservations? What held you back? What was it like after you started? Just get them talking. I like to know what their first year was like. What was it like on opening day? What did you feel like? You'll get some good stories. Some people are like, oh my God, our phones weren't up. It was a mess. Some people say it was the best day of my life. What was your first year like? Dude, the first year of running any business, like, is hellacious, right? There are crazy stories that come out of your first year. They don't know what they didn't, they don't know what they don't know in their first year. So like, how did you learn to do this? Like, oh my God, I had no idea that I had to do this, or I had no idea how to do that. Well, how did you learn to do that? Well, we made these mistakes and we had to pivot and we had to do that, I always like, what advice would you give someone who wants to start off a business like yours? Now they're the expert, right? Now they can tell me how they have been successful, what things they've learned. They're going to talk to you about the mistakes they made and help you avoid them. Make sure you don't do this. I totally did this wrong. I like to, what do you love about your job? You can even ask, I try and keep them positive. You can totally ask, what are some mistakes that you made? And that's fine. Those can be fun. But I try and keep it positive. What's been your biggest victory so far? I always like to talk, I put marketing there. How did you grow your business? How did you get in front of new people? Because that's sometimes the hardest part of our job. So I'm trying to glean some information from them, right? Like, how did you meet new people? Because I'm having a hell of a time meeting new people. Like, how did you meet new people? And this is where you're going to learn to get better at doing what we need to do, right? And I'm also fascinated in scaling businesses. And our role as a business owner is going to change as our business grows. My role in my agency is very, very different than when I opened. Incredibly different. And it's no different than the people that I'm talking to. You might be I interviewed someone last week who started with one restaurant. Now he has 4. I'm like, man, how did you do that? How did you know when you were ready to grow? How did you trust your team to do what they need to do? You're doing totally different things now. So there's so much that you can learn from these people. And then if you get on a line of questioning and they're giving great answers and they're really going, the questions that can really get them a little bit deeper are these 3 on the bottom. Can you tell me more about that? What did that feel like? What happened next? And that's how you're really going to get more stories and better content from people. So that's how I interview people. You guys, my interviews usually are 40 to 60 minutes. I don't want it to be a 10 minute kind of hot shot. I want to really dig into their story. I want to get to know them. I want to get to know their business. I want to get to know what makes them tick. And it's such a great way to get to know local business owners, man. And so that's my process when it comes to how I set up an interview. Like I said, I met with these people just a couple hours ago. They have a great story, and I'm going to feed them 8 questions. I'm going to interview them next week, and I'm going to email them like 8 or 10 questions based on the conversation that I just had with them. Tell me about tell me about your first farmer's market experience, because they're a beverage company and they were like selling out of the trunk of their car. How did you get in front of more people? What's the culture like in your business? What's next for you? These are just great conversations. And so let me think if there's anything else in there. I think that's kind of trying to think if there's anything else that comes to this strategy that I would want you to know. Like I said, this is something I've been doing for 7 years. I think consistency is important. It's a pretty formal part of my marketing plan. It's free. You guys, it's free. Okay. You guys, which is incredible. And the only thing it really takes is time. And honestly, once you get the system down, and with things like Anchor, I just spent an hour meeting those. I was there for an hour between 11 and 12. And then I'm going to interview them for another hour. And then honestly, to get it up, if you're using Anchor, to get the interview up on Anchor after it's recorded, if you're not going to edit it, which you know, dude, Anchor even has like intro music and outro music and all of these different things that you can do with it. But you can get it published in like less than 10 minutes. That's it. It's really easy. My other podcasts, if you guys have listened to Simply Explaining Insurance or Agency Launch, when I use Anchor, I come in, I record on my computer, I upload the audio, and like my episodes are short, right? They're like 10 minutes. It takes me 15 minutes, you guys, to put an episode out. That's it. Okay. It's really easy. And the amount of value you get for the time spent, I think is worth it. And so, but I think the toughest part is, you know, chasing the people can be, I'll chase people, and if they ignore me after like maybe the fourth ask, then maybe I'm done and I'll circle back with them, you know, another time. If it's an interview I really want, or if it's a company that I really want, because I know that, you know, again, we want to earn their insurance, you know, I'll stay on them. So if I have a chance to get in front of companies that I know that we are competitive in, restaurants, you know, property managers, stuff like that, I'll stay on them until I get them. Okay. I'm trying to think. I was trying to think if there was a way that you could do this to meet mortgage broker. I've interviewed mortgage brokers. Yes, that's huge. Okay. You want to give value to a mortgage broker? I've interviewed multiple mortgage brokers. Okay. Doesn't matter. You can interview 3 in a row. It doesn't matter. They all have a different story. Okay. You can interview realtors. Like, you're going to want to interview centers of influence. And once you do this long enough, you can start picking and choosing the people that you want to interview. I interviewed anybody that wanted to be interviewed in the beginning, but now I can be more selective. And so it's great. Is there more value to do? Troy, is there more value to doing one-on-one instead of Zoom? I think so. I think I've interviewed some people in Zoom for some of my for my other podcasts, for some insurance-based stuff. And I think that doing it face-to-face is significantly better than doing it over Zoom. There's something different about being in the same room as somebody than sharing a screen with somebody. There's a different connection that gets made when you can look someone in the eye, when you can shake their hand, you can pat them on the back, you know, maybe end up, you know, these people have become friends of mine and really good business for me. And so I would say I would encourage to do face-to-face, because if you have a chance to go to their space, take it. If you have a chance to get them in your space, get them in your space. Like, this is how I've enjoyed doing business for a long time. It's so different than doing it. You could do a Zoom interview and you could record it and you can extract the audio from a Zoom and you could upload, you could totally do it that way. But I think you're going to find more success and have deeper relationships with people if you're doing them face-to-face, you know. And you guys, I can't tell you the business that I've earned by doing this, like, they rarely shop me. Okay. And in some cases, when I'm earning new business and I'm writing a new account, like, I'll put the number in front of them. They're like, yeah, Matt, whatever, just I'll buy it. I had a guy that I interviewed in town years ago, and I've had his business for a long time. He just bought another business. It was like a car wash. And I did the quote and it was like $8,300 for the car wash. He got there was another quote that was available for like less than $6,000. He's like, Matt, I want you to do it. I'll pay the $8,300. the relationships are very real, and keeping and closing business this way after you've made this connection is substantially easier than if you're really just hustling to get a policy. You know, we still have to do that in some ways. This circumvents a lot of things like that. Let's see. Yeah. So I think face-to-face, that's why I didn't do it during the pandemic. I was like, I'm not going to do it. You know, I didn't think there would be enough value there. Now, so another thing that I would tell you too, is that, like, when do you think it's okay to ask for their business after this is done? I do not want to be the guy that comes in and plops you down in the chair. I interview you. We have this great conversation and all this other stuff. I'm not going to be the guy. You could be this guy if you want to, but I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be like, okay, now who does your insurance? That's not the kind of salesperson that I am. It's not the one that I want to be, that I did all of this work just so I could earn your insurance. I really want it to be organic, and it works for starters. People will give you their business. Okay. But there has been a period of time over the past few years where I have felt comfortable after 6 months or a year or something like that, where I will circle back, because once you interview people, I want to stay connected with them, which is why I stay connected with them on social, so I can continue to see what's going on in their life. They can continue to see what's going on in my life. And it's a much easier ask once you know them as people. So I asked a gal, I've been trying to land just this small apparel shop in town that I know that we would do well in. She's got 2 locations. I interviewed her in the spring. She's kind of tough to get a hold of. She had a great experience on the show. She loved it. She thanked me profusely. She's like, that was incredible. Thank you so much. And so I've waited 6 months, and I went back to her, and I don't have an answer yet, but I was like, hey, Lana, do you know anyone else that would be a good guest on the show? I'm doing another run of interviews. And I usually say something like, look, I would be super proud to protect your business. That's kind of the way that's my ask. I'd be really proud to protect your business. Would you give me an opportunity to earn that? And that's the way that I ask people. And, and that works too. People are like, yeah, Matt, sure. I don't know why I didn't think of that, so that's the way I've decided to go back. I've had some people tell me no, of course, we're all going to be told no. They're like, no, Matt, look, we really like you, but we love the guy we're with. We had a big claim years ago. They took care of it. We're going to stick with them for now, yada, yada, yada. And that's fine, but I'm not going anywhere. Okay. As soon as their guy retires, I'm just going to be waiting, or when that experience happens that they're ready to shop, like, you want to be the first person they think of. They're like, my agent doesn't call me back, or my agent retired, or my rates went up. Who should I go? Matt. I should call Matt, right? You're just waiting, after you've interviewed all these people, stay in front of them casually, comfortably, and they'll come. So you guys, I've probably written a couple $100,000 of premium by doing this. Okay. So you guys, I think that's what I got for you today. Do you have any questions? I've tried to give you kind of the philosophy behind it, why it works, the systems that I use, the line of questioning. I want to give you the best chance of success. I hope you all do something like this. You guys, and the other thing is, like, this doesn't necessarily have to be a podcast. Okay. Maybe you want to do a business. I've seen other agents do business spotlights, and they use their social media channels like Instagram or Facebook, and be like, yo, every week I'm going to post a story, or something about a local business. I'm going to do a local business spotlight. Okay. And you can go out and you can meet people. You could build a Facebook page of, local businesses, successful local businesses, or something like that. And you could still meet people this way. Okay. Podcasting for me has been the way to go. Some people, Troy, I was just going to go here. Good job about doing, video. I didn't start with video, so I'm not going to transition to video. You can upload the audio onto YouTube. That's something that you can do. People do listen to YouTube. Is the second biggest search engine in the world. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but it's owned by Google, right? And is it owned by Google? Is that right? I think it is. So that's not a bad place to be putting your content. Okay. I have had people come in and bring their own videographer, and they create the content. So I've had someone come in, I've interviewed them, and they bring their own video guy in. I've done that a couple of times. And yes, Troy, exactly. Like with Troy McClain. So that was really neat. It felt like I was on TV. It was pretty fun. But yeah, that stuff you can put on YouTube. Yeah. And then there are other things you can do. If you create a piece of content like this, that's an hour long, I use a program called Headliner, which is, you guys maybe see some of the stuff that I put out where it's a static picture, but it has audio embedded in it. And so you can extract like a good 30-second clip, 60-second clip. You can put their picture on it. I usually ask for a picture and a logo from the people I interview. So you can create a nice image, and you can extract the audio, put it on the picture, and post it on all of your channels. You can tag them. You guys, in a good interview, you could make 10 of these. There's so much good stuff in them. So Headliner is it's like $12 a month, or something like that. I make sure I get use out of that. So you can also have these podcasts. There was a period of time where I was having them transcribed. And so I found someone on Fiverr that would manually listen to and type out the conversation. It was a lot more work than I think she bargained for, because like the first interview I transcribed was like 15 pages long. But I was taking parts of that conversation and cutting and pasting them and creating blog entries. Okay. You can take just one line, like something that they say that's really profound. You can take one line and create, a word picture. You guys see those all the time, and you can put their name on it and you can tag them. There's so much. You can create 30 pieces of content from one interview. Okay. And you can just have, and give it all to them. It's free, right? How cool is that? So there's a lot of stuff that I've learned to do over the years that continue to bring value. And my blog, deetsagency.com, is where most of my content lives. So you can find me there. I'll drop it in here for fun. I just created a WordPress blog where a lot of this stuff lives. And so that's been my podcasting journey. So if you guys have any questions, was this helpful for you? Are you guys going to do this? I'd hope we get a couple of new podcasters out of this. That would be cool. But I'm open. I'll open up for questions. I know these Zoom calls are weird. You guys, we're all staring at each other and it's kind of weird, but like, this is a safe space. If you guys have a question, I promise you're not the only one that has it. So feel free to ask it. I want to give you as much as I can. So does anyone have anything they want to ask? You're welcome, Billy. All right. All right. Well, I think that'll do it then. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for an hour. Like I said, this has been something that's really unique. I guarantee you there's no one in your town that's doing this. There's no insurance agent in your state that is doing this. All right. There are very few people podcasting is very popular, but there are very few people that are doing it and doing it well. So you can really position yourself very differently and uniquely by doing this. So I don't know. I know very few people in our industry that are podcasting, especially this way. So you can really kind of make a name for yourself in a different way. So, where does the public go to listen to podcasts? Well, Jody, Apple Podcasts is very popular. Spotify has most of the podcasts, Google Podcasts, like those are probably the three that people will go to most. So, yeah, Apple Podcasts is like the OG. Everything's on there. So cool. All right. All right, you guys. Well, you guys can hit me up anytime you want if you have any questions. I don't know how many of you are in my texting communities. I know a bunch of you are, but if you guys want to connect with me, I'm going to drop this number in here, send a text, and I'm sending out tips and resources and advice all the time. And if you reply to that text, it just comes to me. So it's just another way for us to connect. So I'm here for you if you need anything. So yeah, I'll be sending out, I've recorded it. And so I'll post it on my YouTube channel and drop the link, so you guys can all see it and other people can see it. So there you go. All right, you guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, good to see you.
You too.
All right.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Take care. Bye. Bye.